So what pops into your head when you think about the ancient world? I bet it's stuff like the Great Pyramids, right? The Colosseum, epic battles, maybe pharaohs covered in gold. But that's kind of like judging our entire world today by only looking at skyscrapers and presidents. Today, we're going to go way beyond the monuments and explore the fascinating and honestly pretty surprising daily grind of the ancient world.
All right, let's just dive right in. What did an average Roman actually grab for lunch? Did ancient Egyptians even have weekends? These little questions, they open up this huge window into how these incredible civilizations actually worked. Not just for the emperors, but for, well, everybody.
If you really want to get a feel for a society, you can't just study its heroes and its headlines. You got to look at the rhythm of daily life, those small, repeated actions that when you multiply them by millions of people over centuries, literally build an entire culture from the ground up.
And this slide, right here, it lays it all out perfectly. On the left, you've got the highlight reel of history, the stuff we all learn in school. But on the right, that's the real story. The simple meals, the work schedules, that's the engine that powered everything you see on the left. So let's start with the most fundamental routine of all, time. I mean, our lives are totally governed by the 7-day week, the 9 to 5, the weekend. But for the ancients, believe me, the clock ticked to a very, very different beat.
Take ancient Egypt. You might think the pharaoh was the ultimate boss. But nope, the real boss was the Nile River. Their entire year was built around its 3 phases. First, you had Akhet, the flood season. This was basically a forced break, a natural off-season, when farmers might go work on big state projects. Then came Peret, the planting season. And finally, Shimu, the harvest, an intense, all-hands-on-deck time of year. Which, of course, brings us to a really common question. If your whole schedule is dictated by a river, where does the weekend fit in? Did they get a 2-day break every week like we do?
Well, the short answer is no. The whole idea of a regular 2-day weekend is actually a pretty modern invention. See, their concept of rest was just different. It came in these big communal chunks. You had the massive downtime during the flood season, and, this is super important, you had frequent religious festivals that were basically public holidays for everyone.
Okay, let's switch gears from how they spent their time to another daily, universal, food. And seriously, forget all those Hollywood scenes of lavish Roman banquets with peacocks and stuff. What was really on the plate for a regular person walking the streets of Rome or Pompeii?
Their diet was really built on a few core things. The absolute backbone was grain, usually served as bread or this thick porridge they called pulse. For protein, you're looking at affordable stuff like lentils and fish, and if you could afford it, a little pork. But the real key, the Roman catch-up if you will, was this super pungent fermented fish sauce called garum. I'm telling you, that stuff was everywhere.
Now here's something wild. For a ton of Romans living in crowded city apartments, these buildings called insulae, kitchens just weren't a standard feature. So how did they get a hot meal? Well, this leads to one of the most fascinating parallels with our own world.
Meet the Thermopolium. This was, and I'm not kidding, an ancient Roman fast food joint. Archaeologists in places like Pompeii have found these awesome street front counters with big clay jars sunk right into them. They would have held hot stews and all kinds of ready-to-eat dishes. It was a totally essential part of life in a Roman city.
So, we've looked at how they worked and what they ate. But why does digging into these little details matter so much? Because these simple, repeated habits are literally the glue that holds a society together. They are the invisible architecture of a civilization.
Just think of it like a chain reaction. It all starts with daily rituals, like eating pulse or stopping by a thermopolium. These create shared experiences. But these habits also reinforce social status. Trust me, the elite weren't eating the same stuff as the poor. And when everybody understands these unwritten rules, you get social stability. It's how millions of people manage to coordinate their lives.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Whether it's the harvest season in Egypt or grabbing a quick meal in Rome, these daily routines aren't just about survival, they're about creating meaning. They give life a predictable rhythm, which cuts down on uncertainty and gives people a shared sense of who they are.
And what's truly amazing, just mind-blowing really, is that the echoes of these ancient daily routines are still all around us today. They're just kind of hidden in plain sight.
I mean, look at this. The Roman Thermopolium is basically the great-great-great-grandfather of our modern food truck. That essential Roman flavor, garum, it lives on in the fish sauces that are a staple in so much of Southeast Asian cooking. And even their public baths served a social function that's pretty similar to our community centers today.
The legacy is just everywhere. The healthy Mediterranean diet we talk so much about? Ancient roots.
our constant debates about work-life balance. That echoes their system of seasonal work and festival rest. In our obsession with their world in movies and video games, it just proves how much these very human stories still resonate with us.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? By looking at the daily grind, we start to see history from the bottom up. We give a voice back to the millions of ordinary people who actually built these civilizations. And maybe most importantly, it forces us to turn the mirror around and ask, what do our own habits say about us?
And that's the final thought I really want to leave you with. 1,000 years from now, when future historians are digging up our world, what are they going to make of our morning coffee ritual, our daily commute, our weekly trip to the grocery store? What story will our daily grind tell about the world that we built?